And now let me tell you about IST. For the rest of the world, this refers to Indian Standard Time. But I'll let you in on a little secret. We Indians have a slightly different definition for it. To us, IST is Indian Stretchable Time. For instance, if you're invited to an Indian wedding at 8 p.m., it will probably begin at 10:30 p.m. and I'm being generous with the timing here. It's almost like a mutual understanding. We're all on the same page, much like tardy telepathy. But let me clarify, we aren't the only latecomers. People across the world struggle with being on time. According to a survey, 12% people are late to work at least twice a week. 12%. Running late is the only exercise many people get. Now, American Gen Z is proud to be part of this club, and Gen Z, being Gen Z, even has a word for it. It's called time blindness. It's popping up across the American workforce. People are showing up late to work, then requesting that their time blindness be accommodated. As expected, this has received mixed responses. But before I get to that, what is time blindness? It refers to a skewed sense of understanding time. Time blind people either under or overestimate the time a task will take. To them, time is just an immeasurable chunk. Frankly, it sounds bizarre. Is time blindness even a real thing? Well, here's what the experts say. Time blindness could be a symptom of a mental health issue. Like with people who have ADHD, they can become hyper-focused on an activity and lose track of time. But very few psychologists treat time blindness as a mental condition by itself. They say time blind people should not be given special treatment. I know. There goes your chance of using it as an excuse. Time blindness is basically a fancy word for being perpetually late. Points for creativity, sure, but it's kind of like saying that you have phobe. That's the fear of being early, F-O-B-E. It's not a real thing, at least not yet. We made it up. Just an excuse to avoid arriving too early at a party. Fear of being early and losing your street cred. And that's really the reason why people are late to things. So why are they? Why are people late? A Washington University study says being late is genetic. Some studies blame childhood experiences. People often mimic their parents' tardiness or even rebel against overly punctual parents. There is no winning this, right? Science also says that some people are hardwired to be late. They function on autopilot mode. Others like playing crisis maker. Such people need an adrenaline rush to get going. Sometimes lateness is a product of sheer optimism. People underestimate the traffic, for instance, then sleep through every one of their 10 alarms. If time isn't your friend, maybe you can relate to one of these reasons. But for those who are punctual, these are simply excuses with an element of selfishness. For instance, people are late for dinner with friends, but how come they arrive on time for job interviews or flights? It's a fair question. And the time-challenged are likely to face it regularly. After all, our world considers it a moral virtue to be on time. There is a whole industry dedicated to timeliness. According to some reports, it's worth more than $90 billion. It enthusiastically offers analog clocks, digital clocks, alarm clocks, timers, planners, self-help books, articles, even motivational posters, the kind that say, Taylor Swift has the same 24 hours in a day that you do. And people buy into this. They don't just strive to be punctual, they also demand it regularly, especially from their airlines. And this Brazilian airline is the most punctual in the world. It was on time 89% of the times. Haneda Airport in Japan is a proud member of the Efficiency Club. It's the most punctual airport in the world, and for all the jokes that we crack about IST, Kempe Gowda International Airport in India is the second most punctual one. The next three most punctual airports are in the US. But that's not all. We even expect punctuality from our trains. Some countries take it a little too far, though. In 2017, for instance, a Japanese rail company issued an apology because its train left 20 seconds early. It is odd. But as I said, punctuality is seen as a virtue, at least in many societies. Germany, Britain, France, Switzerland, and Japan are meticulously punctual. Whereas many Latin cultures and Asian countries like India and China practice flexible time. But even in these countries, latching on to the time blindness trend will not fly. Being fashionably late is hardly ever in fashion, but then again, people just can't help it. Some are born late, some achieve lateness, and others have lateness thrust upon them.